Shakespeare's my favorite in all of English lit. Some people pitch a fit when I start asking who wrote those marvelous plays. They tell me to shut my trap, that they don't want to flap, nothing to unwrap about no authorship mystery. Truly, though, a merchant in grain who wrote knavery, as with Richard III, though Henry V is possibly worse. And in comedy, how about Dogberry and the Dromios and Juliet's nurse? Shakespeare is infinite, Shakespeare's illiterate. Something here doesn't fit the Stratford story. Someone illuminate me. As for tragedy, there's Mark Antony. Lear and Hamlet are absolute gold. Puck is magical, but most tragical is the rubbish we have been told. Something just won't cohere, Stratford's a myth, I fear. Who is this Earl de Vere that I've heard of? Someone illuminate me. In those plays, I want illumination.
I'll fees you in faith.
A pair of stocks, you rogue.
Ye are a baggage. The slies are no rogue. Look in the chronicles. We came in with Richard the Conqueror. Therefore, pacas palabras, let the world slide. Cessa!
You will not pay for the glasses you burst?
No, not a denier. Go by Geronimy. Go to thy cold bed and warm thee.
I know my remedy. I must go fetch the third borough.
Third or fourth or fifth borough, I'll answer him by law. I'll not budge an inch, boy. Let him come, and kindly.
What was that? I thought this play was about Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton being outrageous. Well, we'll rejoin the snoozing sly. But first, I'm Michael Delahoyde, professor of English and influencer. You want to see? Magpie. Sit. Good dog. Okay, you all sit and stay. You're going to be influenced here at Shakespeare Illuminated, where we seek to appreciate the brilliance of Shakespeare's works. And it's always especially illuminating when you give credit to the right guy, Edward de Vere, 17th Earl of Oxford, using the pen name of Shakespeare. That's the best answer to the long-standing so-called Shakespeare Authorship Question. For much more on this perspective, check out the Shakespeare Oxford Fellowship website, shakespeareoxfordfellowship.org, and or my own website, michaeldelahoyde.org. And note, please, when I refer to Oxford, it's usually because I'm talking about some kind of documented biographical matter. When I say Shakespeare, I mean Oxford, the playwright. If I have to refer to the illiterate grain merchant of Stratford, I will dismayingly mention Shakespeare, as it was recorded in Stratford under various spellings, as he tried to scrawl it too. So if you need a formula or a motto, Oxford is Shakespeare. Done. I don't want to influence you into trouble, though, so be careful what you do with the Oxfordian information given in this series and on either of those websites. The issue of the authorship is more than controversial and too typically meets with rage and retaliation, especially in schools and colleges, where you risk being labeled a heretic. We don't want anyone flunking English because someone else has been influenced in the wrong direction. But here you might have some of the joy retrieved that was beaten out of you. So we're going to explore now what threatens to get Shakespeare canceled, since people can't read and have to dumb him down. The Taming of the Shrew. Here are some general questions we want to try addressing. There is some anonymous play titled The Taming of a Shrew. What's the story with that? These induction scenes, which never get shown, never produced, almost, do they have anything relevant to do with the play that we know, The Taming of the Shrew? How come maybe just this once Shakespeare has decided to be a sexist pig? And what about Katharina? What happens to her? What does taming mean? Where is she crushed and emerges somehow afterwards? Well, if you have any questions, you are welcome to hit the Q&A button that you should see below. And if I don't address these during the show, because I'm too distracted and illuminating, I will try to answer things afterwards. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat a little bit too, maybe. But now back to Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew, already in progress. What you saw was the first bit of what's considered a framing scene, the induction. And if it were a true frame, as it is on another play that we will address today, then you'd expect Christopher Sly to come back in the end after we've seen Katharina and Petruchio and all the rest. But in Shakespeare's canonical play, that never happens. He just falls asleep and disappears. So how do we explain that? And what's it doing here anyway? Some critics will say, you could have slapped this intro material on that's preparing for a play within a play, basically, onto any Shakespeare play whatsoever. Others more subtly want to look at the nuances in these induction scenes and say, yeah, but do they fit this particular play especially well? And indeed, I think they do. What we saw, even about 2 words into the play, "I'll fees you," says Christopher Sly, and we need a footnote already because this is street slang. These are lowbrow characters, and he means roughly, "I'll fix you." And even there, you think, "I'll fix you." Might that have some significance? In any case, he's being belligerent, and we know he's a moron because he has this faux pride about his family. He came in with Richard Conqueror. And any idiot knows it's William Conqueror. This would be like an American saying, I really respect Rufus Lincoln, the 38th president. You know, come on, everybody knows this. But isn't it interesting that that's the name he doesn't know? William. Well, he has fallen asleep drunk now, and a lord comes in, and we're going to have a setup for a practical, very impractical joke. So here's the next clip for Christopher Sly material, induction scenes.
Huntsman, I charge thee, tender well my hounds. Breathe Merriman, the poor cur is embossed, and couple Clowder with the deep-mouthed brag. Saw'st thou not, boy, how Silver made it good at the hedge corner in the coldest fault? I would not lose the dog for 20 pound.
Oh, why, Bellman is as good as he, my lord. He cried upon it at the merest loss, and twice today picked out the dullest scent. Trust me, I'd take him for the better dog.
Thou art a fool. If Echo were his fleet, I would esteem him worth a dozen such. But sup them well, and look into them all. Tomorrow I intend to hunt again.
I will, my lord.
What's here? One dead or drunk? See, does he breathe?
He breathes, my lord. Were he not warmed with ale, this were a bed but cold to sleep so soundly.
Oh, monstrous beast, how like a swine he lies. Grim death, how foul and loathsome is thine image. Sirs, I will practice on this drunken man. What think you? If he were conveyed to bed, wrapped in sweet clothes, rings upon his fingers, a most delicious banquet by his bed, and brave attendants near him when he wakes, would not the beggar then forget himself?
So even if you ever get to see these scenes performed, I've never seen this disagreement about the dogs included, because it seems completely extraneous. But good Shakespeare critics know that that's where Shakespeare hides himself. Not always in the grandiose matters, but these weird little side trips. So we're talking about who is the better dog. Who knows who's the better dog, the Lord or the huntsman? Well, the Lord, I mean, he's a lord. Except you know perfectly well it's the huntsman who now has to take care of the dogs, who knows the dogs, who feeds the dogs, brushes them, and all the rest. So you'd think that he would have the better insight on who is the better dog. And it comes down to which is the one who picks up the subtler scent on the trail when everything else has gone cold. That's the argument. Well, does this have anything to do with the coming play? And even if you only have a vague notion of the play, you can make a lot of deductions just from the title, Taming of a Shrew. Oh, what's a shrew? Well, your first answer probably isn't going to be this little rodent-like thing with vicious, sharp teeth that is somehow venomous, but rather the derogatory term for a woman with a bad temper. So she has to be tamed. So a lot of people say, okay, well, we're done. I know what this is about. And lamentable. Or they start making excuses immediately. Well, it was 400 years ago, so you were allowed to be a pig back then, and, you know, it was kind of expected. No, you're never. So what's really happening here? Well, let's think about this better dog concept. He picked out the dullest scent. So I'll ask my students, you know, could this have anything to do with the coming play? And someone who will be pretty bright might say, you know, I think we'll find out that Katharina, Kate, is superior in a lot of ways to her shallow sister. So maybe it's like, you know, you pick out the subtler traits, and I think, you know, okay, pretty good, and in the wrong direction. So now you've turned this play into a dog show, and we're supposed to be judging women like that. I hope not. I've mentioned my favorite critic frequently. Here he is, long gone, but Harold Goddard, who was not Oxfordian, but I think would have been if he lived another 60 years. He says, we are the dogs. We are the ones who need to pick out the subtler scents. And this is great for all of Shakespeare's studies, but in particular this play, because it's so tricky in that way. So we as readers need to keep alert to the subtler matters going on here and not just jump to these conclusions, the kind of conclusions, stereotypes, miserable value systems that the Paduans have, as we'll see very soon. Okay, so the Lord has decided, all right, what if you took a guy, changed all his surroundings, better dog, please, and you know, the Matrix made him think that he's got this existence, what would happen? It seems random. It seems a little bit cruel, but we want to play it out. So here is the clip where Sly awakens into his fake new life, and everybody is conspiring around him to make him think he's a lord. We've also brought in a troupe of players who are going to present a play to him too, and the Lord is really absolutely enthusiastic. He's like a little Hamlet initially. He's enthusiastic to see the troupe of players. He tells them, you want to act naturally and don't crack up in the middle of your performance. Just do this as straight as possible. Anyway, so now we play the trick on Sly here.
What? Would you make me mad? Am not I Christopher Sly, old Sly's son of Burton Heath? By birth a peddler, by education a card maker, by transmutation a bear herd, and now by present profession a tinker? Ask Marian Hackett, the fat alewife of Wincott, if she know me not. If she say, I am not 14 pence on the score for sheer ale, score me up for the lyingest knave in Christendom.
Thou art a lord, and nothing but a lord. Thou hast a lady far more beautiful than any woman in this waning age.
Am I a lord? And have I such a lady? Or do I dream? Or have I dreamed till now? I do not sleep. I see, I hear, I speak. I smell sweet savors, and I feel soft things. Upon my life, I am a lord indeed, and not a tinker, nor Christophero sly. Well, bring Our Lady hither to our sight, and once again, the pot of the smallest ale.
And there is a transformation that does take place in him, because in prose and street language initially, we suddenly might subliminally be hearing his iambic pentameter. So he doesn't recognize it, and we're not supposed to pound it out, like in a sing-song way. But something is changed and elevated in him, at least in that regard. In his assertion of identity, he mentions a number of places, towns, and he mentions, ask Marian Hackett, the fat alewife of Wincup, if she know me not. And your Stratfordian scholars have tracked down excellent material for footnotes and will say, there actually was a Hackett family in that town at the time, which means that if this play were performed in that town, what a daring joke, because all your audience is going to say, Marion really is kind of fat, I have to say. But beyond that, the card maker, he's been a maker of cards for combing wool. He's a tinker. He's had a number of cheesy little jobs. And some have detected, that sounds a little bit more like the resume of Shakespeare of Stratford than anybody else. But your same footnotes are going to say, yeah, but look at these towns. That was where Shakespeare's uncle lived, and it has 27 miles to go, and you can get to, peachy. Ramon Jimenez, who we will see in a moment, has identified some alternatives there, towns with similar names and closer to the original town names that are more relevant to Oxford than to Shakespeare. Ultimately, though, since Christopher Sly is going to have to see a play, and he's still drunk and calling for more drink, and he'll fall asleep, and we end up with not a picture proving that, see, Shakespeare is Shakespeare, but rather it seems like Oxford knew about Shakespeare and is mocking him mercilessly here as someone who can't even stay awake for a play and appreciate one, much less someone who could write one. Along the way, when the Lord and his servants are goofing on Christopher Sly, they ask him, well, what would you like to do? Would you like to go hunting? You want to see some of your art? And they specify particular art images of stories of metamorphosis, stories that you can find in Ovid's Metamorphoses, Shakespeare's favorite book. And there again, you think, well, metamorphosis and Taming of the Shrew, maybe there is a direct connection between this induction material and the coming play that we can even anticipate there. All right. Am I a lord and have I such a lady? Well, he's convinced he is. And we finally will get the actual play at last. But first, let's hear from Ramon Jimenez. He is the expert on these earlier plays, in this case, a play called Taming of a Shrew, published anonymously. But there are a number of other plays that he tackles and is doing editions of, works that are seen to be traditionally source plays for Shakespeare, maybe. And then they come up with 28 other theories about what the relationship is. But I think Ramon has nailed it. So, Ramon, tell us background stuff.
The Taming of a Shrew was published in 1594, again in 1596, and again in 1607, all anonymously. It was performed at Philip Henslow's Newington Butts Theater late in 1594. On stage in the same week were plays called Hamlet and Andronicus. The second Shrew play was published in 1623 in Shakespeare's First Folio. It's clear that the anonymous Shrew was written before the canonical Shrew, but who wrote it and when it was written have been subjects of debate for 400 years and more. My research has led me to conclude that this is a Shakespeare play, that is an Oxford play, that he set in Athens and then rewrote at the time he arrived in Padua in November 1575. The principal evidence for this is the striking similarity between the two plays, the anonymous play and the later canonical play. The two plays agree in theme, plot, and subplot, and in dozens of details of action and language. The cast of characters is nearly identical. Of the 15 scenes in the anonymous Shrew, all but 3 reappear in the canonical Shrew. In both plays, we find the same 3 plots: a framing plot featuring Christopher Sly and a nobleman, a subplot in which 2 or 3 suitors court the daughters of one family, and a so-called taming plot, where the tamer attempts to tame the shrew. In the framing plot, in both plays, there are more than 30 identical details of action and language. In the subplot of both plays, there are more than a dozen identical elements. The shrew's father demands that she be the first to marry. Music lessons are arranged for the shrew. The successful scheme of a fake father to vouch for one of the suitors. Each of the 3 husbands bets the others that his wife is more obedient. In the taming plot, in both plays, there are more than 30 details of action and language that are identical. Even before he meets the shrew, the tamer arranges for a large cash payment from her father to be made upon the marriage. A haberdasher and a tailor are brought in to furnish the shrew with a hat and a gown, but the tamer rejects them immediately. The wedding is delayed because the tamer is late. There are complaints about the way he is dressed, but he refuses to change. Each of the main characters reappears in the canonical Shrew, but with a different name, except for Christopher Sly and the Shrew, who is Kate in the anonymous Shrew, Katerina in the canonical Shrew. In terms of vocabulary, in the anonymous Shrew, we find the same metaphors and allusions to birds and falconry, to dogs, to music, to proper names in the same profusion that we find them in the canonical play and throughout the Shakespeare canon. Another anonymous play that Shakespeare rewrote was The Troublesome Reign of John, King of England, published in 1591, thus making it the first appearance of Shakespeare in print. The relationship between the King John canonical play and the Troublesome Reign, the anonymous play, is identical with the relationship between the 2 Shrew plays. And there is another similarity between them. Of the 36 plays in the First Folio, 18 had already been registered. The publishers registered only 16 of the remaining plays, omitting The Taming of the Shrew, the canonical play, and King John. That is because the canonical version of the Shrew was considered commercially identical with its anonymous predecessor. In other words, they were the same plays by the same author. You can read all about these 2 plays and 3 others that Shakespeare rewrote in my book, Shakespeare's Apprenticeship.
All right, good. And now we're into it. So we first have Lucentio. He's a privileged young man coming to Padua because Shakespeare knows it was a nursery of the arts. And he's planning to study until a minute into the play and he sees a blonde and then it's all over. Lucentio, well, some Oxfordians have said that since Oxford's one of his names at court, and I'm sure there were others, was Phoebus, that bringer of light, Lucent, and then that favorite EO ending in these names, EO, sounding like E, the letter O in English, Earl of Oxford, the EO poems that he wrote. But in Italian, it sounds EO, but it might be spelled IO, which is also the Italian word for I, the personal pronoun. Anyway, there are some other show-off bits of Italian here, including some sprinkled Italian phrases that we get. Mi perdonato, pardon me, basta, enough. Con tutto il cuore de trovato, with all my heart, well met, and so on. So this fluency in Italian is unlike what one might have picked up in the traditional explanations for Shakespeare. One, that he was a genius, so he might have popped out of the womb that way. And I know nothing about that phenomenon, but maybe he came out understanding falconry and military history and Italian art. Another possibility is grammar school. And I will admit that I learned about as much of Italian art in grammar school as I did in all my graduate studies. So that could be that one-room schoolhouse for farmers' kids of all ages, or the bar. And this is an interesting idea that the bar is kind of like a little university. So tonight I might go down to Rico's and check this out, see what I can pick up. Anyway, initially, that's the plan. But he catches sight of this dramatic family, pretty dysfunctional. And Lucentio eavesdrops, spies on Baptista, the father, whose daughter is Caterina, is being dismissed as a shrew immediately. And oh, the vision of Bianca, the younger daughter. So here is that introduction in this clip.
Gentlemen, importune me no farther, for how I firmly am resolved, you know, that is, not bestow my youngest daughter before I have a husband for the elder. If either of you both love Caterina, because I know you well and love you well, leave shall you have to court her at your pleasure.
I pray you, sir, is it your will to make a stale of me amongst these mates? If faith, sir, you shall never need to fear. I wis it is not halfway to my heart, but if it were, doubt not my care should be to comb your noddle with a three-legged stool, and to paint your face and use you like a fool.
Gentlemen, that I may soon make good what I have said, Bianca, get you in, and let it not displease thee, good Bianca, for I will love thee ne'er the less, my girl.
A pretty piece. It is best to put finger in the eye, and she knew why.
For the Oxfordian material here, when Oxford was visiting Italy in 1575-76, he was constantly sending for more money. I want to travel more, back to Burleigh, and Burleigh put the brakes on that. So eventually, fed up, Oxford borrowed 500 crowns from a Paduan banker named Baptista Negroni, and he also got some money from a Venetian banker named Benedict Spinola. So we've got a Baptista Minola here, and people think, oh, okay, that's a close connection, and especially because it has all to do with this money. The Paduan concern for wealth is suffocating already. Now, Lucentio and his servant witness Bianca, this other daughter, who acts all sweet with daddy and basically says, yes, I will obey thee, daddy, in all things. And her name, Bianca, which means white or blank or, colorless. Nevertheless, she's got something external about her, and he is smitten. He says, when Bianca says basically, "Yes, Daddy," "Hark, thou mayst hear Minerva speak." Minerva? Well, films will change that because we want to dumb everything down to "you may hear a goddess speak." And that's what Lucentio thinks he's saying. But he says Minerva, Athena, the spear shaker. But Minerva, what do you know about her or Athena? She's the goddess of wisdom. Ah, and that's what he thinks he's saying. She's the goddess of wisdom. Now, somebody may think that a woman saying, "Yes, Daddy," is the height of intelligence. But what he fails to realize, the dope, is that Minerva, Athena, is also a war goddess. And he's going to get in trouble sooner or later. And sooner, in fact, because Baptista, who himself has been beset with these other suitors for Bianca, one of them, the dorky Hortensio, and the other one, this old pantaloon stock character from Commedia dell'arte, Gremio. They are vying for her, but Baptista there has decided that we're going to use this liability Katharina and try to get rid of her, and then you can have access to the daughter everybody wants, which is absolutely vile. And does Shakespeare go with this? Maybe when I first read this play, I thought, oh, well, it's 400 or 500 years ago in Italy, and that's the way it was back then. But once again, no. If you're a crappy father like that, you're crappy universally all time. No excuses. You may hear Minerva speak. What is the dynamic here? Well, already we can see Bianca being this fake little sweetsy girl and daddy's little princess and all of that. But why is Katharina like she is? That is even worse than Beatrice at the beginning of Much Ado About Nothing, where she is so caught up in her rage that she usually has in-jokes that nobody gets. Here, Katharina is so enraged that she just gets dismissed. Doesn't matter what she's talking about. She's the shrew. And that's the way these Paduans operate all the way through here, with their preconceptions, their determinations, their categorizations, and you're done. You got nothing to say. So she's a shrew. She's shrieking. What is she shrieking about? Nobody asks. And she has every reason to shriek. First of all, her sweetsy little sister is a manipulator. Daddy is already proven to be a wretch with this situation and absolutely insulting to her. How do we get rid of her? The problem. And you might, dig a little deeper and it's all speculative, but where's mom? Well, statistically, died in childbirth. Yeah, she's not going to be divorced in 16th century Italy. So, did she die giving birth to Baptista's daughter, Bianca? How would that explain some of the dynamics there? Well, in any case, she's outraged by it all, and she would be too. So if you were a woman in this situation, growing up in Padua, where everybody's a jackass, you'd be screaming too. You may be screaming right now in 2024 or wherever we are watching this. Note also that what is a shrew? Okay, it's this little animal, but we also get the word shrewd from this, which is a negative term for someone who's clever and smart. So it's the same kind of nasty attitude that some people have towards cats. Oh, they're clever. Well, you mean they're smart? Yeah, these women, they're shrewd. You mean they're smart and intelligent. So these reactionary behaviors from the Paduans are lamentable. Lucentio keeps saying, oh, to his servant Tranio, I must achieve this maid. Great, that sounds romantic. And then finally, they're not ennobled by love, any of these people. So if we have to get access to Bianca, and Baptista is only going to allow tutors to get to her, then I know I'll disguise myself as a tutor. Thinks Lucentio, and Hortensio, and that way we can get close to them. And Gremio isn't as quick on the uptake, so he's going to hire a tutor and then infiltrate that way and propagandize for himself. All right, that's the setup. Act 1, Scene 2. Petruchio comes in, has this chop logic exchange with his servant saying, knock me here, meaning knock me at this gate. The servant says, knock you, like beat the hell out of you. No, no, no. And then they go around and around, and Petruchio is outrageous and his behavior is over the top there. But his friend Hortensio comes on the scene, and here is Petruchio's self-introduction to his friend in Padua.
Petruchio, tell me now, sweet friend, what happy gale blows you to Padua here from old Verona?
Such wind as scatters young men through the world to seek their fortunes farther than at home, where small experience grows. But in a few, Signor Hortensio, thus it stands with me. Antonio, my father, is deceased, and I have thrust myself into this maze, happily to wive and thrive as best I may. Crowns in my purse have I, and goods at home, and so am come abroad to see the world.
Petruchio, shall I then come roundly to thee, and wish thee to a shrewd, ill-favored wife? Thou'dst thank me but a little for my counsel, and yet I'll promise thee she shall be rich, and very rich. But thou'rt too much my friend. I'll not wish thee to her.
Oh, Signor Hortensio, twixt such friends as we, few words suffice, and therefore, if thou know one rich enough to be Petruchio's wife, as wealth is burden of my wooing dance, be she as foul as was Florentius' love, as old as Sibyl, and as cursed and shrewd as Socrates' Xanthippe, or a worse, she moves me not, or not removes, at least, affection's edge in me, were she as rough as are the swelling Adriatic seas. I come to wive it wealthily in Padua. If wealthily, then happily in Padua.
Be the better dog here. Most now at this point think, he's on the make. He's all about the money. He's a gold digger. And Zeffirelli, I am so sad at what you've done. Where Petruchio is all about the money, we trot on some extra treasures and dowries. He's polishing the silver and examining that kind of stuff, and even worse. And everything is shut down. There's an ambiguity about this guy, and if you pick out the subtler scent, you realize, what is the difference between him and all these Paduans? He comes to town. What is he doing? He says it. My father is deceased, and so I'm traveling around to see the world. And this is what he would have done at the time before settling down, taking on the estate, and becoming the landowner or noble or whatever it is that he's got going. Crowns in my purse I have, and goods at home. Any reason to doubt this and think, he's scamming already? No, it's the Paduans, it's Hortensio first, whose very first thing out of his mouth is, oh, well, I could get you a wife. She's really rich. I think you might not like her, but she's really rich. Money, 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 ching, 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 ching. And this is the way the Paduans are. Now, from this point on, then you can cherry pick some lines that Petruchio says that prove your point. See, he's a gold digger. But the first thing he says, is there any doubt that he would be in a position to not need money desperately? When we actually go see him, he's got like 28 servants. So stop it. He is playing the Paduans, and he falls into it immediately. He realizes, oh yeah, I'm in Padua again. They're all about the money. So yeah, I'm going to play the game, and I'll say, yeah, money, that's really important. And he's going to talk about his business, and they're all going to bow down, and he'll never say what his business is, but he plays these fools for the fools they are from this point on. Well, maybe we got a sucker here who's going to go after Catherine, and Hortensio and Gremio, who want Bianca, they join forces, and they say, okay, if we pool our resources, we can give him money so he can woo her. Did he ask for that? No. Is it their assumption? Yes. You got to beware of Paduan assumptions. You need to be a better dog. Anyway, we're going to approach Baptista, and Gremio, who has employed the disguised Lucentio, wants him to read books to Bianca. And professionally, as a literature professor, I am rarely so offended. The idea is give her all books of love and see that on any hand you read no other lectures to her but love. So what is a book to a Paduan? Propaganda. And yeah, and here we are again. Books are brainwashing. Teaching is preaching to these dopes. They also say, when they're presenting these tutors to Baptista, that, well, he's a good young man, he's really learned, and he's fit for her turn. He's well read in poetry and other books. Good ones, I'll bet ya. Am I wrong about this? Does he think poetry is the name of a book? And there are other books? Like, I think I read one time, I saw it on the shelf. Math. Math is a book. And there are probably other books too in the world. But anyway, we want the love book because that's what's going to brainwash her. Okay, in Act 2, Katharina has bound Bianca's hands somehow, and Bianca's saying, let me go, let me go. And then she shifts into that cutesy act and says, oh, well, or what you will command me will I do, so well I knew my duty to my elders. Yeah, who's the shrew here? And it seems like Katharina is trying to get her focused on the game playing she's doing with these suitors. So do you want Gremio? Oh, old people because he's rich. Oh, I don't. Oh, is he why you envy me so? And everything out of Bianca's mouth is going to enrage Katharina even more because it's subtly turning the screws to her. She's older, she's jealous. And then it's Petruchio's time to introduce himself to Baptista and get this wooing going with Katharina. So here is another introduction of himself.
Good morrow. God save you, gentlemen.
And you, good sir. Pray, have you not a daughter called Katharina, fair and virtuous?
I have a daughter, sir, called Katerina.
I am a gentleman of Verona, sir, that hearing of her beauty and her wit, her affability and bashful modesty, her wondrous qualities and mild behavior, am bold to show myself a forward guest within your house, to make mine eye the witness of that report which I so oft have heard.
You're welcome, sir. But for my daughter, Katerina, this I know. She is not for your turn, the more my grief.
I see you do not mean to part with her, or else you like not of my company.
Oh, mistake me not, sir. I speak but as I find. Whence are you, sir? What may I call your name?
Petruchio is my name, Antonio's son, a man well known throughout all Italy.
I know him well. You are welcome for his sake.
Signor Baptista, my business asketh haste, and every day I cannot come to woo. You knew my father well, and in him me, left solely heir to all his lands and goods, which I have bettered rather than decreased. Let specialties be therefore drawn between us, that covenants may be kept on either hand.
Aye, when the special thing is well obtained, that is, her love. For that is all in all.
Why, that is nothing. For I tell you, father, I am as peremptory as she proud-minded, and where two raging fires meet together, they do consume the thing that feeds their fury. Though little fire grows great with little wind, yet extreme gusts will blow out fire and all. So I to her, and so she yields to me, for I am rough and woo not like a babe.
All right, some things to catch in there. He says he has improved his wealth, his situation, his estate. Is there any reason to doubt that? Well, only if you've decided, like the Paduans, like everybody's about the money. And another example of, again, his brilliant playing the Paduans, my business ascates, and they treat that word business like it was a sacred term. And he never offers any explanations about anything, including his upcoming crazy behavior. When Hortensio, who's disguised as a music teacher, returns from Katharina and says, she got a little bit out of control and my pate made way through my lute, meaning she bashed me on the head with my own instrument. Petruchio says, hey, this sounds like someone I want to meet. So he does. And some will say, maybe it's love at first sight, but it's certainly wit at first exchange. So here's the two of them meeting soon after Petruchio tells us what his plan is. Everything's going to be sunshine and roses, and he's going to have to change his plan eventually, but at least he's got a first one. Here's a clip of them two finally.
I will attend her here and woo her with some spirit when she comes. Say that she rail. Why then I'll tell her plain she sings as sweetly as a nightingale. Say that she frown. I'll say she looks as clear as morning roses newly washed with dew. Say she be mute and will not speak a word. Then I'll commend her volubility and say she uttereth piercing eloquence. If she do bid me pack, I'll give her thanks as though she bid me stay by her a week. If she deny to wed, I'll crave the day when I shall ask the banns and when be married. But here she comes. And now, Petruchio, speak. Good morrow, Kate, for that's your name, I hear.
Well, have you heard? But something hard of hearing. They call me Katerina, that do talk of me.
Oh, you lie, in faith, for you are called plain Kate. And bonny Kate, and sometimes Kate the Cursed. But Kate, the prettiest Kate in Christendom, Kate of Kate Hall, my super dainty Kate, for dainties are all Kates, and therefore, Kate, take this of me, Kate of my consolation. Hearing thy mildness praised in every town, thy virtues spoke of, and thy beauty sounded, yet not so deeply as to thee belongs. Myself am moved to woo thee for my wife.
Moved? In good time. Let him that moved you hither remove you hence. I knew you at the first. You were immovable.
Why, what's a movable?
A joined stool.
Thou hast hit it. Come, sit on me.
Asses are made to bear, and so are you.
Women are made to bear, and so are you. Come, come, you wasp. I' faith, you are too angry.
If I be waspish, best beware my sting.
My remedy is then to pluck it out.
Aye, if the fool could find where it lies.
Or who knows not where a wasp doth wear his sting? In his tail.
In his tongue.
Whose tongue?
Yours, if you talk of tales. And so farewell.
What, with my tongue in your tail? Nay, nay, come again, good Kate. I am a gentleman.
That I'll try.
I swear I'll cuff you if you strike again.
So may you lose your arms. If you strike me, you are no gentleman. Let me go.
Not a whit. I find you passing gentle. 'Twas told me you were rough and coy and sullen, and now I find report a very liar, for thou art pleasant, gamesome, passing courteous, but slow in speech, yet sweet as springtime flowers. Thou canst not frown, thou canst not look askance, nor bite the lip, as angry wenches will, nor hast thou pleasure to be cross in talk, but thou with mildness entertainst thy wooers, with gentle conference, soft and affable.
Where did you study all this goodly speech?
It is extempore from my mother wit.
A witty mother, witless else her son.
Am I not wise?
Yes, keep you warm.
Marry, so I mean, sweet Catherine, in thy bed. And therefore, setting all this chat aside, thus in plain terms, your father hath consented that you shall be my wife, your dowry agreed on, and will you, nill you, I will marry you. Now, Kate, I am a husband for your turn. For by this light whereby I see thy beauty that doth make me like thee well, thou must be married to no man but me. For I am born to tame you, Kate, and bring you from a wild Kate to a Kate conformable as other household Kates. Here comes your father. Never make denial. I must and will have Katharina to my wife.
Now, Signor Petruchio, how speed you with my daughter?
How but well, sir, how but well. It were impossible I should speed amiss.
Call you me daughter? Now, I promise you, you have showed a tender, fatherly regard to wish me wed to one half-lunatic, a madcap ruffian, and a swearing jack that thinks with oaths to face the matter out.
Father, 'tis thus. Yourself and all the world that talked of her have talked amiss of her. If she be cursed, it is for policy. For she's not froward, but modest as the dove. She is not hot, but temperate as the morn. And to conclude, we have agreed so well together that upon Sunday is the wedding day.
I'll see thee hanged on Sunday first.
Be patient, gentlemen. I choose her for myself. If she and I be pleased, what's that to you? 'Tis bargained twixt us twain, being alone, that she shall still be cursed in company. I tell you, 'tis incredible to believe how much she loves me. Oh, the kindest Kate, she hung about my neck, and kiss on kiss she vied so fast, protesting oath on oath, that in a twink she won me to her love. Give me thy hand, Kate. I will on to Venice to buy apparel against the wedding day. Provide the feast, father, and bid the guests. I will be sure my Katharina shall be fine.
I know not what to say, but give me your hands. God send you joy, Petruchio. 'Tis a match.
Father and wife and gentlemen, adieu. I will to Venice. Sunday comes apace. We will have rings and things and fine array. And kiss me, Kate. We'll be married a Sunday.
Outrageous. Well, he doesn't have time to hang around because business is important. There's an Oxfordian perspective on this, and it's not as autobiographical as a lot of the material in a lot of the other plays, but apparently early Oxfordians made a connection between Katharina and her behavior and Oxford's sister, Lady Mary Vere, and her match with someone named Peregrine Bertie, Lord Willoughby, which I know sounds like little Lord Fauntleroy, but apparently he was a Petruchio character, larger than life, a man's man. There were 500 barrels of wine at their wedding, and just it was, they were over the top too. In any case, the wedding goes off. So Kate right now can be saying, as she's now been dubbed by him, now she's Kate, giving her a potential new identity, the one she's locked into in Padua. But she says, I'll see you hanged first. And yet she shows up for the wedding. So what's that about? Well, you can speculate she's never seen anybody like this before, and you might be insane, but wow, it's, really exciting to be in that relationship when you're exchanging wit with somebody and light years ahead of any of these dorky Paduans who keep hanging around. Now what's coming is going to be more outrage. And the puzzle here is that if she is a shrew now, and Petruchio shows up at the wedding like he does, and then behaves as is reported on the street afterwards, she is going to be fossilized into the worst witch imaginable, because this is her wedding day. And in my office, I have a coloring book for girls of all ages. You can't start them too young on bride and groom coloring book. And oh, but the groom is in there too. No, this is a girl's coloring book, and the color is Bianca. Everybody's white. You can color everybody in their white dresses, and it's a horror. But it is the tradition. So why does she show up? And then what is he doing now? Because it's a new plan. So here is Petruchio showing up late to his own wedding.
Come, where be these gallants? Who's at home?
Not so well apparelled as I wish you were.
Were it better I should rush in thus? But where is Kate? Where is my lovely bride? How does my father? Gentles, methinks you frown. And wherefore gaze this goodly company as if they saw some wondrous monument, some comet or unusual prodigy?
Why, sir, you know, this is your wedding day. First were we sad, fearing you would not come. Now sadder that you come so unprovided. Fie, doff this habit. Shame to your estate, an eyesore to our solemn festival. And tell us, what occasion of import hath all so long detained you from your wife, and sent you hither so unlike yourself?
Tedious it were to tell, and harsh to hear. Sufficeth I am come to keep my word, though in some part enforced to digress, which at more leisure I will so excuse that you shall well be satisfied withal. But where is Kate? I stay too long from her. The morning wears, 'tis time we were at church.
See not your bride in these unreverent robes. Go to my chamber, put on clothes of mine. But thus, I trust, you will not marry her.
Good sooth, even thus. Therefore I done with words. To me she's married, not unto my clothes. Could I repair what she will wear in me as I can change these poor accoutrements, 'twere well for Kate and better for myself. But what a fool am I to chat with you, when I should bid good morrow to my bride and seal the title with a lovely kiss.
Notice no explanation for this crazy behavior. And everything becomes a spectacle. And this is one thing that the Zeffirelli film does really well. We go into the church for the ceremony, and Petruchio is acting drunk and crazed and treating it like a spectacle. And he's getting applause inside a church for finding the ring. And people are climbing like candlesticks to get a better view of this spectacle. And there's nothing for Kate to do, which she normally would be doing, which is being the outrageous, screaming one. Except now she is more or less another audience member to his spectacle. Well, in the reception afterwards, he says a couple of things that are another strategy here. He says, I thank you all that have beheld me give away myself. Well, who actually is given away at a wedding? Isn't that the bride? Dine with my father. You can get away with that, father-in-law, but dine with my father would be something you might hear her say instead. Drink a health to me. A health to me. Don't you drink to the bride or to the couple or something, but he has usurped all the attention from her onto himself. And again, she's got nothing to do but think, what a crazy jackass this guy is in public too. And maybe something's starting to work inside. Maybe not, because she says, well, I'm just going to suit myself and I'm not leaving, when he says, we got to go. And then he puts on this faux noble defense of her and whisks her off. And they go to his place for Act 4. Well, we hear a report of how miserable the trip was on the way there. But then when Petruchio and Kate arrive, we've got more of Petruchio acting insane. Now, remember earlier, she whacked him, and that was a lovely moment. And he says, no, there's none of that. And it is pointed out that in some editions where you have a lot of extra articles of materials about the Taming of the Shrew, we get some historical tracts in there, like sermons from the 1500s about when it's appropriate to beat your wife and junk like that. And the savvier people, the better dogs, say, what is that doing in there? He never lifts a finger against her in anger. Now, he shows what she does to everybody else, shoving around Bianca, throwing things all over the place, but he doesn't do it to her. It's like a show for her. So here, back in his place now, continues that new strategy.
Where be these knaves? What, no man at door to hold my stirrup nor to take my horse? Where's Nathaniel, Gregory, Philip? You logger-headed and unpolished grooms, what, no attendance, no regard, no duty? Where is the foolish knave I sent before? You peasant swain, you horse and mull-horse drudge, did I not bid thee meet me in the park and bring along these rascal knaves with thee? Go, rascals, go, fetch my supper in. Sit down, Kate, and welcome. What, when, I say? Nay, good Kate, be merry. Off with my boots, you rogues, you villains, when? Out, you rogue, you pluck my foot awry, take that, and mend the plucking of the other. Be merry, Kate. Some water here, what ho? Where's my spaniel Troilus? Sarah, get you hence, and bid my cousin Ferdinand come hither. One Kate that you must kiss and be acquainted with. Where are my slippers? Shall I have some water? Come, Kate, and wash, and welcome heartily. You whoreson villain, will you let it fall?
Patience, I pray you, 'twas a fault unwilling.
Whoreson, beetle-headed, flap-eared knave. Come, sit down, Kate. I know you have a stomach. Will you give thanks, Kate, or shall I? What's this, mutton? 'Tis burnt, and so is all the meat. What dogs are these? Where is that rascal cook? How durst you villains bring it from the dresser and serve it thus to me that love it not? There, take it to you, trenchers, cups, and all. Heedless joltheads and unmannered slaves, what do you grumble? I'll be with you straight.
I pray you, husband, be not so disquiet. The meat was well, if you were so contented.
Tell thee, Kate, 'twas burnt and dried away, and I expressly am forbid to touch it, for it engenders choler, blendeth anger. And better 'twere that both of us did fast, since of ourselves are choleric, than feed it with such over-roasted flesh. Be patient. Tomorrow shall be mended, and for this night we'll fast for company. Come, I will bring thee to thy bridal chamber.
So he's ranting and railing like she used to do, and she finds herself saying things like, the meat was well if you were so contented. It was, a lot of this is just your attitude. Oh, where did that come from? Or patience. He didn't mean to hurt your foot. Where's that coming from? So she's got a new position to be in, and it might be a little bit liberating, if I may use the word. I love the mention of the dog Troilus. I don't even know why, but I'll figure it out sometime and put it on my webpage. But he mentions also, you have to meet my cousin Ferdinand. And we never get a Ferdinand here. So what is that doing? Instead, what we get completely illogically is that Hortensio is palling around at Petruchio's place later on in Act 4 here. So clearly there's been some sort of compression of actors and some revision that didn't quite get cleaned up. And I'm always fascinated by this, another non-Oxfordian, but he wrote 4 books about unconformities, he calls it, which really are more like inconsistencies or evidences of revision. And that's one of them. Sometimes it's a real Oxfordian help to consider these plays as being something undergoing revision, and you can pinpoint specific times. So I just mentioned that. Now, here's the touchy part, because from the previous play, Taming of Shrew, we are importing this messing around with sleep and food, withholding dinner that night, although he's not going to eat either. And, you know, at this point, you can point out this has gone too far. Denial of food and sleep is outlawed in prisons. This, you know, despite being before Geneva Convention matters, is just outrageous too. And I tend to agree, although I would also add, I don't know about you, but when you were acting like a big brat, were you ever sent to bed without dinner? So, you know, and if so, did you send for the UN and social services and the Red Cross to come save you or something? Let's not try to go too far about all of this. Mostly it's about nothing's good enough for him. He's outrageous, he is violent, but not at her. He's putting on a show. Psychologically, I believe it's called mirroring, that if someone sees himself or herself in a role that is disturbing out there externally, somehow internally, maybe things start clicking and getting processed. So is he taming her? Is he beating her? Is he crushing her spirit? Or is he teaching her something, showing her something? Well, one of the servants says, you know, she knows not which way to stand, to look, to speak, and sits as one new risen from a dream. So something's happening there that doesn't sound so horrible, really. Well, back in Padua, Hortensio has decided that he's getting nowhere with Bianca, and he's just going to marry a widow because she's got money, a rich widow. What's her name? Widow. We don't care. Ka-ching, ka-ching. That's all we need to know. She's a widow. She must have money. And he's out of the game. Petruchio, now we shift back to him. He brings in a tailor and a haberdasher, and this is for Kate's new clothes. And she likes him, but he has hissy fits and tantrums and tears them apart and says, no, this nothing's good enough, nothing's good, and more outrageous behavior there. So that is going to disappoint her, but crushing spirits, not sure. In any case, here's what he holds out to her. Let's go back and visit your father. That probably would be nice. And here's how that exchange goes with Petruchio in his new mode.
Well, come, my Kate, we will unto your fathers, even in these honest mean habiliments. Our purses shall be proud, our garments poor. For 'tis the mind that makes the body rich, and as the sun breaks through the darkest clouds, so honor peereth in the meanest habit. What? Is the jay more precious than the lark because his feathers are more beautiful? Or is the adder better than the eel because his painted skin contents the eye? No, no, good Kate. Neither art thou the worse for this poor furniture and mean array. If thou account'st it shame, lay it on me. And therefore frolic. We will hence forthwith to feast and sport us at thy father's house. Go, call my men, and let us straight to him, and bring our horses unto Long Lane End. There we will mount, and thither walk on foot. Let's see, I think it is now some 7 o'clock, and we well come there by dinner time.
I dare assure you, sir, 'tis almost 2, and 'twill be supper time ere you come there.
It shall be 7 ere I go to horse. Look, what I speak or do or think to do, you are still crossing it. Sirs, let alone. I will not go today, and ere I do, it shall be what o'clock I say it is.
Now, here's the point at which I want to reiterate. Where's the broken spirit bit? This is something we go into this rom-com pattern expecting, or with our predetermined notions, like Paduans about money. But does it ever take place? So one time I had a student who was fishing around for paper topics, and she came to talk to me and said, I really want to focus on that part where Kate just kind of is broken down, and, you know, she loses her spirit, and then, you know, eventually will emerge like a different person. And she really believed it was in there, but in looking and looking, where is that scene? Guess what? You couldn't find it. You just expected it to be there, so you read it in. And it tends to be the expectation. So in the teen adaptation, 10 Things I Hate About You, and I could tell you 14 things I hate about that movie, there is the breakdown. She's weeping and reading a poem that either has 14 things that she hates or 7, depending on where you put the semicolons, and I can't figure it out. But that's the expectation, that sooner or later this haughty woman has to be broken down. Or Time of the Temptress, this Harlequin romance. So she's not much of a haughty woman, but she's in the jungle with Wade. And she has this kind of adventure where she has to say, and she always stutters, my clothes, she whimpered. A monkey took them. So you see the expectations there, and it never happens here. Now, at a certain point along the way, Kate might have said, oh, yeah, at 7 o'clock, whatever. And because we're next going to see them on the road, and it gets better. But was she ever broken? And yeah, I'm going to admit that next up, is it the sun or the moon? Is it 7 o'clock? Is it 2 o'clock? It would be really nice if we could be truth tellers all the time. And when people ask us, how are we? We just say, fine, how are you? And then go on our merry way. Or if we could actually tell our neighbors at a neighborhood gathering what we think of them and their crappy kids. But we don't. So what big damn deal is it if I say it's 7 o'clock, fine, 7. It's the sun, it's the moon, fine, whatever. And we get on with our business. But as I say, this next scene, when they are in fact on the road, is even better. Back in Padua, we got to get a fake father for the fake Lucentio to insist that, yes, the money's there and the marriage can go through. And nobody's really much interested in what's going on back there. We all care about Petruchio and Kate. So here are they on the road back to Daddy's house.
Come on, in God's name, once more toward our fathers. Good Lord, how bright and goodly shines the moon.
The moon! The sun! It is not moonlight now.
I say it is the moon that shines so bright.
I know it is the sun that shines so bright.
I'm my mother's son, and that's myself. I shall be moon or star or what I'd list, or ere I journey to your father's house. Go on, and fetch our horses back again, evermore crossed and crossed, nothing but crossed.
Forward, I pray, since we have come so far, and be it moon or sun or what you please, and if you please to call it a rush candle, henceforth I vow it shall be so for me.
I say it is the moon.
I know it is the moon.
Nay, then you lie. It is the blessed sun.
Then God be blessed. It is the blessed sun. But sun it is not, when you say it is not, and the moon changes, even as your mind. What you will have it named, even that it is, and so it shall be for Caterina.
Well, forward, forward. Thus the bowl should run, and not unluckily against the bias, but soft. Company is coming here. Good morrow, gentle mistress. Where away? Tell me, sweet Kate, and tell me truly, too, hast thou beheld a fresher gentlewoman? Such war of white and red within her cheeks? What stars do spangle heaven with such beauty as those 2 eyes become that heavenly face? Fair lovely maid, once more good day to thee. Sweet Kate, embrace her for her beauty's sake.
Young, budding virgin, fair and fresh and sweet, whither away, or where is thy abode? Happy the parents of so fair a child, happier the man whom favourable stars allot thee for his lovely bedfellow.
Why, how now, Kate? I hope thou art not mad. This is a man, old, wrinkled, faded, withered, and not a maiden, as thou sayest he is.
Pardon, old father, my mistaking eyes, that have been so bedazzled with the sun, that everything I look on seemeth green. Now I perceive thou art a reverend father. Pardon, I pray thee, for my mad mistaking.
Do, good old grandsire, and withal make known which way thou travellest, if along with us we shall be joyful of thy company.
Now, she didn't just go along with what he says. She got some digs in there too. Subtle ones that maybe are so surprising that he didn't even catch them. But saying, the moon changes even as your mind, is first talking about the fickle-minded stereotype that women traditionally get. But the moon changes even as your mind is also that lunar pun too, that you're an insane person. But she says it sweetly, and on we go. Now we goof on this guy, Vincentio, who's the real father coming to town. So there's going to be some identity problems and chaos going on there. And they play together and goof on him. So this is the start of them collaborating. And it's not just them at each other now anymore. And it's certainly not her being contentious against him and everything he does. And he can drop some of the craziness now too with her. And let's turn it on other people and have some fun. All right, so when we do go back in Act 5 to Padua, the craziness comes out and the disguises are all there and something's going on and people are imposters. And when Petruchio gets there, he actually thinks this is flat knavery to take upon you another man's name. Ding. There's a little Shakespeare moment. Well, it all comes out. There's been a secret marriage between the real Lucentio and Bianca, and all the disguises are coming off. And the only explanation we get is love wrought these miracles. And it's the most absurd thing because we've been perpetuating fraud for months with these Baptista and the others, but love wrought these miracles, so everybody's perfectly fine. Kate and Petruchio look on this spectacle, and Kate is issued another command. Kiss me, Kate, says Petruchio. And she's reluctant. And he says, okay, well, you're not obeying us, so we're going to leave town. And she explains, no, it's not that I'm embarrassed about it. It's just like we're in public. So nevertheless, she gives him some sort of kiss, and we'll go into the banquet next. Is this really a power dynamic to the very end? And people will look at even this last coming scenes and say, see, well, she figured out a way to get the power. Who wants power? What is wrong with people? Stop it, especially in relationships, but just in general, what does it get you? So is this really a power dynamic? And because she brings up the fact that this is taking place in public, she doesn't really want to kiss in public. She brings that issue here, that what's the difference between public and private? And I think that's a big question we want to end on, since we'll never see them again in private in this play. So they go underground. We don't know what goes on between them, but we can guess maybe a lot better than with these other characters or characters in other plays, and think this one's going to work somehow. I think this one's going to work. So we go into this feast. Hortensio's there with his widow. What's her name? Widow. We're still calling her widow. What does that mean? Well, once again, you're locked in to your stereotype. It's a financial one, probably, your category. And what does it mean for Hortensio, who goes around being asked, hey, Hortensio, how's your wife, widow? He's dead. Lucentio and Bianca are there, newlyweds too, and of course, Petruchio and Kate. Petruchio's obviously pretty bored and says nothing but sit and eat and eat. He wants things to get going, and nobody gets it. Padua, afford such kindness, son Petruchio. Yeah, that's nice, but let's do something. I know. Here's a wager. You think my wife's a shrew? Let's guess whose wife is going to obey, and we're going to call them back, and we're going to see. And then they have some money bet on this just to make it interesting to Paduans, presumably. Bianca's called. Not surprising that she doesn't come. Why should she? She has spent, this is Isaac Asimov saying, she has spent her whole life being sweet Bianca and simpering and exuding charm for only one purpose, to catch a man. Well, her catching days are over, at least for a while, and now she means to relax. And she's done. Hortensio entreats his wife to come, but she sends word, no, you come to her. And everybody has a laugh at these guys whose wives are being disobedient. So Petruchio sends his servant to go get Katharina, and to everyone's surprise, she does come to the summons, and also then agrees to drag the other two in. So here's a first note about this. Earlier on, what was Catherine's problem? Well, she was a shrew. She was throwing her sister around and shoving things, and now she's shoving her sister around, and and everybody's going to applaud this. So here we go. So Petruchio is going to demand that she say something. You could give some perspective on the duties of a wife. Here's the big clip.
Katharina, I charge thee, tell these headstrong women what duty they do owe their lords and husbands.
Fie, fie, unknit that threatening, unkind brow, and dart not scornful glances from those eyes, to wound thy lord, thy king, thy governor. Thy husband is thy lord, thy life, thy keeper, thy head, thy sovereign, one that cares for thee, and for thy maintenance commits his body to painful labour both by sea and land, to watch the night in storms, the day in cold, and craves no other tribute at thy hands but love, fair looks, and true obedience. Too little payment for so great a debt. Such duty as the subject owes the prince, even such a woman oweth to her husband. And when she is froward, peevish, sullen, sour, and not obedient to his honest will, what is she but a foul, contending rebel, and graceless traitor to her loving lord? I am ashamed that women are so simple, to offer war where they should kneel for peace, or seek for rule, supremacy, and sway, when they are bound to serve, love, and obey. Why are our bodies soft and weak and smooth, unapt to toil and trouble in the world, but that our soft conditions and our hearts should well agree with our external parts? Come, come, you frowards and unable worms. My mind hath been as big as one of yours, my heart as great, my reason haply more, to bandy word for word and frown for frown. But now I see our lances are but straws, our strength as weak, our weakness past compare, that seeming to be most, which we indeed least are. Then veil your stomachs, for it is no boot, and place your hand below your husband's foot, in token of which duty, if he please, my hand is ready. May it do him ease.
Why, there's a wench. Come on and kiss me, Kate. Come, Kate, we'll to bed. We three are married, but you two are sped.
All right, the perpetual question. What do we do with this? Where'd this come from? Well, nowhere else, it is pointed out in Shakespeare, does he seem to be subscribing to a doctrine of male superiority. This is, I guess, a more elaborate and, yes, lamentable version of, yeah, it's 7 o'clock. Yeah, it's the moon, it's the sun, whatever. Man is the master, blah, blah, blah. Does this have anything to do with the way people conduct their private lives? I'm told from students, yeah, there are some, but in general, this is not the way it's going to go in the household of the widow and Hortensio. It is not going to go the way that Lucentio thinks with Bianca, who has been addressed by him like, I lost 100 crowns or whatever since you didn't come. And Bianca says to him, the more fool you for laying on my duty. In other words, they're newlyweds. And she says, boy, are you a dope for counting on me. And there goes his stomach. But there are some other oddities here too. First of all, yeah, I guess you don't want to think in terms of selling out, but everybody's listening to her and she goes blah, blah, and no one's ever listened to her before. So no matter what she says, unfortunately, she says this and they take it literally. But they're all nodding and treating her like she is now the main actor in all of this. She gets all the attention. And even Petruchio, what he says about her, he is an audience member too. He doesn't comment on the content or anything, but really that he's impressed by the performance, if you will, that she's been putting on. There's another little odd bit here that so the subject owes the prince. Even such a woman oweth to her husband. Yeah. Except who's the prince? Queen Elizabeth. She liked to be called prince, play that gender ambiguity card, and subjects would be male. So just like subject male owes duty to the woman prince, so a woman owes, and it just falls apart in illogic. Finally, there has Kate, I insist, ever been crushed or broken or lost her spirit. I don't think she could pull that off if she was just crushed and given up. If Petruchio was always about the money, why didn't he get the money, get the dowry, and not care about her anymore? So I think it's people falling for the Paduan value system here and being duped by it, alas, and not being the better dog. Has she been trained, tamed to behave? What is taming anyway? It's just calming down. When you tame a dog, when you train a dog and it piddles in your living room the first night, do you beat the hell out of it? Not a good plan, because now you're going to have poop in there. So no, it's not that. It's that somehow he has taught her how to behave, same word, synonym, how to act. And she can command the room now. So it's actually, I think, a generous courtesy that he has done for her, and not as self-serving as everyone has assumed. Hey, one more thing. Remember Christopher Sly? Well, we don't get him back in the canonical play, but sometimes we can import him from the Taming of a Shrew, that source play that Shakespeare was using. So let's get a little bonus here with Christopher Sly. He's been dumped back in the street by the Lord and his men, and he wakes up and realizes, oh, that was either a dream or an illusion or something, and he's back to his normal, miserable life.
What, Sly? Oh, wondrous. Hath he lain here all night? I'll wake him. I think he's starved by this, but that his belly was so stuffed with ale. What, ho, Sly, awake for shame.
Give us some more wine. What? All the players gone? Am not I a lord?
A lord with a plague. Come, art thou drunken still?
Who's this? Oh, I've had the bravest dream tonight that ever thou hearest in all thy life.
Ay, marry, but you had best get you home, for your wife will thrash you for dreaming here tonight.
Will she? I know now how to tame a shrew. I dreamt upon it all this night till now, and thou hast waked me out of the best dream that ever I had in my life. And since I have been taught to tame a shrew, I'll go home to my wife and tame her too.
We assume there is no loot at your house, but your pate will make room through something when you go back there, and I suspect maybe a frying pan. Why would this be canceled? Well, maybe some rat ate a page of a manuscript. But most people who do consider this think, it's beating a dead horse. If people don't get the subtler message here, then having this representative of another person who doesn't get it at all has nothing to do with SmackDown. It's got to do with working a relationship and not the power stuff. Then let's just leave it off. It's almost too depressing to end with Christopher Sly misinterpreting everything. And why not? He was asleep for most of it anyway. All right. Time to Q&A. So let me see what's been going on. I've seen some of the chat and really appreciate people, really hashing this out and trying to navigate it all. And thanks for all the compliments on the show. And yeah, definitely the scenes, the actors. Nice to know about this. We shall never be young. Actually, it's depressing for me these days. We shall never be younger as a phrase in German, and it seems like Shakespeare knows some version of it too 400 years ago. Could Elizabeth Vere be a Shrew candidate? That might have come in before I mentioned it, but yeah, I guess that could be too, because it does seem like she was a handful. Her deal with Stanley didn't go very well. I agree. It's just that the earliest version of this should have preceded Elizabeth Vere being in full Shrewhood, maybe. And so, as we typically get in Shakespeare, we get the earlier Lady Mary Vere, and then a confirmation when you meet another Shrew in your family. So I'd say, yeah. I did wonder about Petruccio, Italian diminutive of Pietro, Peter. I don't know that there's a Peter connection, but it just occurred to me today because I started thinking, am I going to explain the problem with Petruccio? Because it's another headache. If you spell it with a CH, it's going to look like Petruccio in English, but it's going to be a hard C in Italian, Petruccio. So what was intended? If you do two C's, then it's going to look like Petruccio in English, but it's going to be Petruccio in Italian. So what was the intention there? I can't even guess what it is. Then maybe it's also a problem that you have Katharina, Catherine, Kate. Katharina seems to be the most used there. But if we're having those H's in Italian, then it would be Caterina, which it's often pronounced as too. And so, blah, 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 I can't. I just can't. The moon sun scene reminds me of 1984 when O'Brien asks Winston how many fingers he can see. I guess, but that's like way more sinister than I think is going on here. And it's so trivial, sun, moon, 7 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and all the rest, that when, at the very least, if you're still dismayed about Catherine's final speech, maybe you can say that at the very least, she put together a complete diatribe. All she had to do was say, "Yes, master." And, he would have won the bet. But that's not what it's about. And I think that in film versions of this and productions where not just everybody around, but Petruchio himself is kind of gobsmacked by the whole thing. He didn't expect her to go this far and be this eloquent and thorough about it all, or even this extreme. Oh, my hand is here to wipe your lousy boot. It's so over the top, in fact, that he too has to appreciate how far she's come or how she has gotten command of herself, of the room, and she can play these Paduans now who are not even worth it as well as he did. All right, that's all I'm seeing in Q&A. Is there anything else that anybody wants me to address? Well, wrapping up here. You can plunge further into the Oxfordian perspective again on the Shakespeare Oxford Fellowship website, shakespeareoxfordfellowship.org, and you can find all manner of resources and links and delightful videos about this angle. Most of my commentary today and more, you can visit my website, michaeldelahoyde.org, and you'll find suggested further readings, a lot of slightly annotated filmography information, and other. If you're watching this on YouTube in what will be the present, but right now is the future, links to more information would be in the description. I want to thank our actors, but I'm going to let that be on a slide afterwards. And thanks to everybody who's a friend of this and has contributed to this and is really encouraging about the whole enterprise. Thanks very much to everybody, friends of Shakespeare Illuminated.